The tow rope is the first piece of safety equipment you'll see before you even get into the air. And the FAA wants you to know specific things so that way you can be a safe and competent pilot. Stay tuned to the end and we'll go over the exact questions the FAA will ask you on your written test and your check ride to make sure that you're a competent pilot. The tow rope is hooked up at both the tow plane end and then all the way at the nose of the glider to a mechanism that can be released by the pilot in the cockpit. Tow ropes usually nowadays are synthetic fibers. They come on spools of 500 or 1,000 feet long, and then they're cut to the length needed. This tow rope is actually has a hollow core. That's to make it easier to splice on the tow rings that attach at both ends. There's the older Schweitzer style, and there's also the newer Toss style of tow ring. Some things that you want to be aware of, so that way the tow rope has the maximum strength possible, is don't step on or drive over the tow rope. You can bend or even break fibers when you do that. And even if you don't, you can grind in dirt or sand into the rope itself that acts as an abrasive and can cut those fibers as it's repeatedly used. Also, don't use a tow rope that has a knot in it. A knot can reduce the strength of the tow rope by up to 50%. Speaking of tow rope strength, the towline, the FAA's official term for it, must have a braking strength between 80% to 200% of the maximum certificated operating weight of the glider. This is the 80 to 200% rule, and you will be tested on that both during your FAA knowledge test and during your check ride. We want to make sure that the tow rope is strong enough so that way it can be used in normal operations without braking. That's the 80% part. We also want to make sure that the tow rope isn't too strong such that it would damage either the tow plane or the glider, but it instead would break first. That's the 200% part. By having a range, a tow operation at your glider club can pick a strength that's appropriate to use over the entire range of gliders that will be used there. Well, what if the tow line has a strength greater than 200%? Well, there is a rule for that too. You can use a tow line that has stronger than 200% of the glider's maximum certificated operating weight if you install safety links, also called weak links, at both ends of the tow line to bring it back in to the 80 to 200% rule. The tow plane end must be stronger than the glider end of those two safety links, but not by more than 25%. If a weak link does break, we'd much prefer it to be on the glider's side, so that way the tow line is dangling from the tow plane just as it's supposed to do during a normal release. As you see in this picture, there's also some wiffle balls that have been attached to this tow line. We use those at the Tucson Soaring Club. It helps the tow line after release. It doesn't sag down quite so far underneath the tow plane, and so it's much less likely to get caught on a fence during landing. Now, let's look at some example problems. These are the exact FAA questions that will be asked. When using a tow line having a strength more than twice the maximum certificated operating weight of the glider, an approved safety link must be installed at which points? Only the point where the tow line is attached to the glider? the point where the tow line is attached to the glider and the point of attachment of the tow line to the tow plane? Or C, only the point where the tow line is attached to the tow plane? Well, we went over that. The answer is B, the point where the tow line is attached to both the glider and the point where it's attached to the tow plane. Example 2, the minimum allowable strength of a tow line used for an aero tow of a glider having a certificated gross weight of 1,040 pounds is, if they throw numbers in there, they're probably asking you about the 80 to 200% rule. So this is where we want to get out our calculator so that way we can do some basic math. Okay, you only need to use the 4-function calculator for this. So they're asking about the minimum allowable strength of the tow line. Minimum, well, 80 to 200%. The minimum is the 80% part of it. So we take our glider's weight. They give us 1,040 pounds, and we multiply that by 80%, 0.8. Okay, and so the minimum allowable strength of the tow line is 832 pounds. And we look there, up, B is 832 pounds. Example 3. For the aero tow of a glider that weighs 700 pounds, which tow rope tensile strength would require the use of safety links at each end of the rope? In this question, they're asking you about the 80 to 200% rule, but kind of in a tricky way. So they're not asking you, do you know the 80 to 200% rule? They're asking you about it via way of the safety links, the weak links that are required on the tow line. And we know that we only need safety links if the tow rope is more than 200% of the maximum certificated operating weight. So let's take that glider weighing 700 pounds and we'll multiply it by 200%. Multiply by 2. Okay, 1,400 pounds. So if we could use a tow line of 850 pounds, that'd be fine. 1,040 pounds, that would be fine. But more than 1,400 pounds, 2 times the weight of the glider, that's when we need to use a safety link. Well, then the answer is C. Let's do one more together. The minimum allowable strength of a tow line used for an aero tow of a glider having a certificated gross weight of 700 pounds is, again, they're asking about the 80 to 200% rule. So take our 700-pound glider and we multiply it by 0.8, 80%, and find that the minimum allowable strength of a tow line used for a glider having a certificated gross weight is 560 pounds. Answer A. And that is what the FAA wants you to know about tow ropes. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe so that way you can get more tips on how to become a safe and competent glider pilot.